Good morning, everyone. Today we will discuss controlled potential electrolysis and the technique of colorimetry. These are two really important topics in electroanalytical chemistry. So this technique is also very similar to the technique of polarography, and there are a few differences only. So in any electroanalytical technique, we have electrochemical cell and the current passes through it and we apply some potential. So like all these techniques, the technique of colorimetry, it is also a dynamic technique and here we pass the current through electrochemical cell. The very basis of this technique is that we perform exhaustive electrolysis of the analyte. So it means that if the analyte is to be oxidized during the electrochemical reaction, then complete oxidation will take place. And if it is to be reduced at the working electrode, then the complete reduction should take place during the experiment. So this exhaustive electrolyte is actually the basis of the colorimetry. However, in case of other techniques like polarography, we only perform the partial electrolysis of the electrolyte. But here we perform complete exhaustive electrolyte of the analyte. Now we can do that in two methods. First is the controlled potential colorimetry, in which we apply a constant potential to the electrochemical cell. So when you are controlling the potential, it is controlled potential colorimetry. And in the second method, we can use controlled current colorimetry, in which we pass a current, constant current through the electrochemical cell. So here you are controlling the current, so it becomes controlled current colorimetry. Now, during the process of electrolysis, if suppose total charge Q is being passed through the electrochemical cell, Q we have taken in the coulombs. So, if this charge is passing through the electrochemical cell, then it is actually proportional to the absolute amount of the analyte by Faraday's law. So, this Faraday law actually governs the technique of colorimetry, and here, according to the Faraday law, we have Q is equal to NFNA. That is, Q is total charge, N is the number of electrons per mole of the analyte, F is Faraday's constant, and Na is the mole of analyte. So if you carefully observe this equation, the total amount of charge that is passing through the electrochemical cell, it is actually proportional to the moles of analyte present in the sample. So if by any method we can measure the total charge passing through the solution, we can find out the concentration of the analyte in our sample. Now, what is a coulomb? It is actually equivalent to ampere second. When we pass a current, when we pass a constant current I, the total charge Q is ITE. So T is the electrolysis time. TE is the total time taken by electrolysis. So what time we need to consider here? We have to consider the time that is required for exhaustive electrolysis of the analyte, because this is the very basic principle that the analyte has to be completely electrolyzed. So the time taken by such complete electrolyze is our electrolysis time. And if the current varies with time, as it does in the controlled potential colorimetry, then the total charge will be, you can calculate it by integrating the amount of current at different time intervals with respect to dt, starting from time 0 to the time te. That is, till the electrolysis time, you will integrate all the current values at different time intervals. So you will get total charge Q. This is the formula to calculate Q. So we need to find out Q because we want to calculate the concentration of analyte, the moles of the analyte. So in order to calculate Q, we are measuring the current here, and that we can do by integration process. So actually in colorimetry, what we do, we monitor the current as a function of time, and we use this equation 2, or we can use the equation 3, that is the later equation in which we were performing the integration. So when once you came to know about the total charge that is passing through the electrochemical cell, in that case you can use the equation 1 as well to determine the mole of the analyte. So it means that once you know the total amount of charge required for the complete electrolysis of the analyte, you can calculate the concentration of the analyte by this value. So to obtain an accurate value of Na, that is the number of moles of analyte, all the current must be used to oxidize or reduce the analyte. Or you can say colorimetry requires 100% current efficiency. So because they are using that current value for calculating the concentration of the analyte. So if we are including all the type of current that is involved in the electrolysis part of the analyte, we will calculate the charge required for the electrolysis. But if this current value is not perfect, if this current value includes all other background current as well, which is not actually involved in the electrolysis of the analyte, in that case you will get a wrong value of the concentration of analyte. So it is very required here in the techniques of colorimetry that 100% current efficiency should be there. It means whatever current you are providing to the electrochemical cell, all that current should be used exclusively only for the electrolysis of your analyte. Then only you will get the correct value of your concentration. So let us first discuss about the controlled potential colorimetry. The current efficiency is the percentage of current that actually leads to analyte's oxidation or reduction. So to ensure the 100% current efficiency, to hold the working electrode at a constant potential is required, chosen so that the analyte reacts completely without simultaneously oxidizing or reducing an interfering species. So it is possible that in your sample, apart from your analyte, some other impurities may be there. Some interfering species could be present. So when you are controlling the potential in the technique of controlled potential colorimetry, in that case you need to adjust your potential in such a manner that at that potential only the electrolysis of your analyte is taking place and no other species is undergoing the electrolysis at that potential. Otherwise what will happen, that an interfering species will always also consume the current that you are passing through it, and the value of current that you measure will be incorrect. So in that case, you will get the incorrect concentration of the analyte. So your potential that you are going to adjust in the controlled potential colorimetry, it should be chosen wisely. As the electrolysis proceeds, the analyte's concentration decreases, and therefore what happens? The current is also decreasing. So what happens when you when you plot a graph between the current and time? With respect to time, you are plotting the current. So initially when your analyte was high in concentration, you will get high amount of current. But when the electrolysis progresses, that in that case what happens, the concentration of analyte decreases, and as a result of this the current is also decreasing. So you get a curve here, and by calculating the area under the curve, this is the graph, you get current time profile in the controlled potential colorimetry. So here you can see at time 0, when the concentration was really high of analyte, then you get a very high value of current in the initial position. But when the electrolysis proceeds, the amount of current actually decreases. And when the amount of current is decreasing, you can say that the amount of analyte is also decreasing. So when the current becomes 0, ideally when it becomes 0, at that time you say that my electrolysis is complete. So when it was decreasing constantly, when the concentration of the analyte becomes 0 at the time Te and the current becomes 0, you say that electrolysis of the analyte is complete. So it is the exhaustive electrolysis. So when you calculate the area under this graph by applying the integration like this, in that case you can find out the value of Q. So this is one of the method to get the charge value. You can plot a graph like this and you can integrate this. Now we can use the Nernst equation to estimate the minimum potential for quantitatively electrolysis. In this, like we have seen in the controlled potential electrolysis, we have to set our potential at such a value that only the analyte will be electrolyzed. So how we will calculate that potential value? What should be the potential value for such condition? So we can do that calculation by using the Nernst equation. Now, if we define a quantitative electrolysis as one in which we reduce or oxidize 99.9% of the substance. See, this is the condition of exhaustive electrolysis, that your analyte should be reduced or oxidized up to 99.99%. So we can use the same assumption to calculate the required potential for the electrolysis. So the example that is taken here is a copper salt present in the aqueous medium, and it is gaining 2 electron and getting converted into copper solid form. So what will be the potential, the applied potential, if we are performing the controlled potential colorimetry? So the required potential can be calculated by this equation, and here you can see the concentration of the copper dye positive at the TE. This will be this. How you calculate that? Because only 0.0001% of the copper will be left behind at time TE. It will be only 0.0001% of the initial concentration of copper, that is Cu2 plus 0. This is the initial concentration, and this is concentration at the time TE. Because we have considered 99.99% of the substance reduced or oxidized. So when you have performed all the calculations and you have substituted the values in these equations, you will get this. So from this equation, you can get what will be the potential that is required for the electrolysis of this copper 2 plus aqueous ion up to 99.99%, or you can say for the exhaustive electrolysis of the copper. How we can minimize the electrolysis time? What happens in the controlled potential colorimetry? You know that the current decreases over time. So what happens? The rate of electrolysis actually becomes slow and more slow and slow. So when it continuously becoming slower, the complete electrolysis of the analyte, it will require a very long time. So in that case, you need to minimize the electrolysis time. So what we can do, we can choose the factors those are affecting the analysis time. Like we can approximate the change in the current as a function of time, where we have I naught 0 is the current at the time 0 and k is the rate constant. So for complete electrolysis in which we oxidize or reduce 99.99% of the analyte, the current at the end of the analysis TE, it will be I greater than equal to 0.0001 multiplied by I naught. So current will be only due to this much concentration of the copper, because at the time TE, when your electrolysis is complete, in that case the current remaining will be this much percentage. The remaining percentage is this. So this will be the current that is left inside the analyte, the electrochemical cell. So when you substitute this equation into the previous equation, when we are integrating the current versus time, so you get this equation with the rate constant. And here you can see this TE is equal to 9.21 upon K. So this is actually inversely proportional to the rate constant of the reaction. But this rate constant is directly proportional to the area of the working electrode, and therefore the rate of the stirring. So it is inversely proportional to the volume of the solution. So what are the factors affecting the analysis time? We finally came to know that we have three factors which affect the our analysis time here. So we have volume of the electrochemical cell, then we have electrode surface area, and then we have stirring time. So the stirring rate should be really high, so that when you are stirring the solution properly, in that case what happens, the ions are available at the electrode surface all the time, and it will take lesser time to complete the electrolysis. Then higher the electrode surface area, faster will be the electrolysis, and smaller the volume of the electrochemical cell, greater number of ions will be available for the electrode surface area at a given time, so that your electrolysis will be faster. So a quantitative electrolysis, it typically requires approximately 30 to 60 minutes. although it could be shorter or longer time than this. So it depends upon the type of analyte and your experimental conditions. Now let us see the instrumentation in this technique. A three electrode potentiostate is used to set the potential in the controlled potential colorimetry. So the working electrode is usually one of the two types, a cylindrical PT electrode that is manufactured from the platinum gauge, or a mercury pool electrode can also be used here. Now, when we will choose which electrode, how we will determine what electrode to be used here. So, the platinum is the working electrode of choice when we need to apply a positive potential. That means when we are when our analyte is going to be oxidized, or we when it is the anode that is we are using as a working electrode. So we use platinum in that case, but we use mercury electrode when our analyte require a negative potential. That means it is going to be reduced in the electrolysis process, or you can say when my working electrode is supposed to be behaving as a cathode. Apart from the working electrode, we also have an auxiliary electrode here, which is generally a platinum wire, and it is separated by a salt bridge from the analytical solution from the your electrochemical cell. So this we are using to prevent the electrolysis products generated at the auxiliary electrode from reacting with the analyte and interfering in the analysis. So we have working electrode, then we have an auxiliary electrode, and one more electrode we have here, that is your reference electrode. So in all we have three electrodes working together here. The reference electrode could be a saturated calomel electrode, or it could be a silver chloride electrode. And the simple function of the reference electrode is to behave like a reference. We are measuring the potential. So, what are the methods for determining the total charge? The first method is that you monitor the current as a function of time, then you plot a graph, the current time profile, and then you calculate the area under the graph that we have just seen. So, that could be one of the mathematical method in which you have to perform so many calculations. But what happens in the modern instrument? They have the electronic integration, and they monitor the charge as a function of time, and the total charge that is consumed at the end of the electrolysis, it is read directly from a digital readout. So it becomes your task, it makes your task really easy, that you need not to perform any mathematical calculations here, and directly you get the value of charge. You are not measuring the current, rather the instrument is directly giving you the value of charge here. So this is the potentiostate, three electrode potentiostate that is used in the controlled potential colorimetry, and here you can see the instrumentation, that is potentiostatic colorimetry. It consists of an electrolysis cell which contains your analyte, your sample solution. Then you have a potentiostate in order to maintain the potential constant, and then we have an electronic integrator for determining the charge consumed. Now, potentiostate, what is it? It is an electronic device that maintains the potential of a working electrode at a constant level. Since our technique is controlled potential colorimetry, so we have to maintain the potential constant with a feedback circuitry which adjusts the potential of the variable DC voltage source to maintain E working electrode minus E reference constant. So how we are measuring the potential here? We are simply getting the difference of the potential between your reference electrode and the working electrode. So here is the electrolysis cell. You can see here it consists of three electrode system. We have a working electrode here. We have counter or auxiliary electrode here, and third one is the reference electrode. So the reference electrode is often either a standard calomel electrode, which is termed as SCE, or it could be silver chloride connected to bulk of the solution by a salt bridge. Now the working electrode is where the electrolysis takes place, and the potential at the working electrode, that is EW, it is fixed versus the E reference. So generally, that we have already discussed, we are using two types of working electrode. One is the platinum and one is the mercury pool electrode, and we decide which is to be used according to the type of the reaction that is going to take place in the electrochemical cell. So what are the applications of colorimetric titrations? They can be used for the acid-base titration. You can directly measure the amount of acid or base remaining during the course of the titration. Then we can also apply them for complexometric titrations, in which we are using the EDTA as a chelating agent. And similarly, we can also use them for the redox titration. So here you are simply measuring the current. So we are simply using the controlled potential colorimetry rather than taking other readings. So the redox titration can also be used here. So another application of this technique is gravimetric technique. So electrogravimetry. So first of all, we need to understand what is gravimetry, and then we will understand what is electrogravimetry. So if the product of the controlled potential colorimetry, it forms a deposit on the working electrode. As we are seeing that suppose the reaction that we have just saw is copper dye positive is converting itself into copper solid. So what will happen when the reduction of the copper take place? It will convert itself into solid copper. So when such a deposition is taking place on the working electrode, then that mass that is collected on the electrode, we can use it as an analytical signal. How we can do that? If we are performing the complete electrolysis of the analyte, and if after the electrolysis all the analyte is going to be deposited on the electrode, so what I can do, I can weigh the, I can find out the weight of the electrode before the electrolysis and after the electrolysis, and then I will get the weight of the precipitate, weight of the deposition. So that weight of the deposition is entirely due to my analyte, so I can get the concentration of the analyte by this indirect method. So difference in the electrode mass before and after the electrolysis, it is direct measurement of amount of the copper in the sample. So this is the electrogravimetry. Gravimetry is that quantitative technique when we are using the weight of the sample. All the calculations we are performing, they are by weight. When you are performing the calculations by volume, then you call it a volumetric analysis. So like your titrations, they are a type of volumetric analysis. You are performing all the calculations in terms of volume. But in gravimetric analysis, you are performing the calculation in terms of the weight. And because we are using an electroanalytical technique here, this type of gravimetry is known as electrogravimetry. So what is electrogravimetry? The analyte is quantitatively deposited as a solid on the cathode or anode. So if it is undergoing reduction, it will be deposited on cathode, like in case of the copper dye positive ion we have just seen, or if the oxidation is going on with the analyte, then it will deposit itself on the anode. So mass of the electrode directly measures the amount of the analyte. Now, not always practical, because numerous material can be reduced or oxidized and still not plated out on an electrode. So actually, this technique is having this limitation that it is practically possible only when your analyte is completely depositing itself on the electrode surface. If that deposition is not complete in a sense, then you cannot use this technique. So electrogravimetry can be conducted with or without a controlled potential. So that depends upon the condition. You can make your potential constant, or it may not be constant. The only important thing here is your analyte should be completely deposited on the electrode surface. So when you don't control the potential, a fixed potential is set and the electrode deposition is carried out. The starting potential must be initially high to ensure the complete deposition. The deposition will slow down as the reaction proceeds. So you need to vary the potential, otherwise that deposition is never complete on the electrode surface. Here you can see the instrumentation for your electrogravimetry. This is my working cell, electrochemical cell. It has a platinum spiral anode, and this wire gauge is actually attached with the uh, uh, attached here, and it is dipped inside the analyte solution. So what will happen when the electrolysis will take place? The analyte will deposit itself on the platinum gauge. So this platinum gauge cathode, it is actually it has deposited copper on itself. So by measuring the weight of the electrode before the electrolysis and after the electrolysis, you can calculate the weight of the substance deposited on it. What are the examples of electrogravimetry? So copper is deposited from the acidic solution using a platinum cathode. Then nickel is deposited from a basic solution. Then we have zinc deposited from the acidic citrate solution. Some metals can be deposited as the metal complexes here. Silver, cadmium, copper, silver, cadmium, and gold. Some metals can be deposited as their oxides. So they get their self deposited on the anode by process of oxidation. Like we can study the lead dye positive, which deposited as PbO2, and manganese at MnO2. So these are the different applications of the electrogravimetric technique. Now we have controlled current colorimetry. So this controlled current colorimetry is another form of colorimetry, and here a constant current is applied in place of a constant potential. So it produces the current versus time profile, which is shown here, and it has two advantages. If you compare it with the controlled potential colorimetry, the first advantage is the analysis time is shorter. Because what happens when you're constantly providing the same current, that then the exhaustive electrolysis will be completed soon. So the typical analysis time for controlled current colorimetry is less than 10 minutes as compared to 30 to 60 minutes for a controlled potential colorimetry. Second advantage is total charge is simply the product of current and time. So the calculations are really easy in this case. But it also comes with certain disadvantages, like we need a method for determining when the analyte's electrolysis is complete. So how will you come to know that the electrolysis is complete? You are constantly providing the same amount of current. Then second thing is that the current efficiency, it is never 100%. So when you are performing the calculations, when you are finding out the concentration of the analyte, in that case the current efficiency should be 100%. But here secondary reactions may take place because constantly a high amount of current is provided. So these secondary reactions are going to affect our calculation later on. For this lecture, these are the references which I have taken. So that is all from my side for today. I hope the lecture was clear to you. Thank you so much.